Okay, this is my next little video clip. Promise it'll be a bit shorter than the previous one. The previous clip was about identifying those groups of European who had contact with Marty, significant contact with Marty before 1840. This is about the impacts. Um, Once you've identified the groups in your answer, you can then talk about how or the impact that these contacts had. So, for instance, missionaries, well, they introduced ideas, okay, ideas around religion. They introduced literacy. A lot of Māori learned how to write very quickly because they saw it as beneficial and also a way of, I guess, earning a little bit of mana within their community. And it helps them to understand by being able to read um, the wider world that they're just being exposed to. Missionaries also traded. They found that when they were setting up, establishing themselves in their various communities, there was pressure put on them to source useful technologies to assist Māori in their everyday life. Okay, traders. Traders had a significant impact. I mean, they wanted money. Okay, they weren't necessarily there to make. Their primary objective was not to make life easier for Māori. Their primary objective, I guess you could say, was to make a bit of coin. They sold muskets, which was a big one, and you can have a look at the impact of muskets on Māori society. But muskets were probably one of the most sought after items by Māori. The reason for that, muskets would give a particular community an advantage over their enemies. And if they needed to go and settle some old scores, once they got their hands on some muskets and they knew how to use them, they would then go and attack their enemy and beat them. This led to, I guess, an arms race. But in the 1820s and 1830s, as once Māori communities realised that getting muskets was so important, that for their survival and being able to maintain their mana whenua, their area, they needed to get muskets. If they didn't have muskets, a conflict became very one-sided. Once everyone armed themselves with muskets, thanks to the actions of traders, it saw that advantage being evened out between different groups of Māori. So the musket had a big impact, and that came from traders. Just to give you an example, that led to a period of time where called the Musket Wars, where different iwi and hapu fought each other with muskets to settle these old scores, and even to conquer or grab more land and resources from neighbouring iwi. Ones to think about the Ngāpuhi raiding south against Ngāti Whātua and into the Waikato. And Te Rauparaha, who was originally from Kāwhia in the Waikato, and his Ngāti Raukawa allies raiding and setting themselves up in the southern part of the North Island. And that all happened during this period of warfare that we called the Musket Wars. And that stemmed from having muskets being made available to them by traders. So that was, an impact that traders had. And while I mentioned muskets, I mean, I think from memory, some missionaries may have also been guilty of supplying muskets because they of the pressure that was put on them by their Māori communities to get the muskets in order to even the odds with any neighbouring iwi who were wanting to settle old scores. Now, the impact of, Pākehā Māori, another group, there's an individual Pākehā who went to live in Māori communities. Their impact was really straightforward. It was helping Māori engage with the Pākehā world, acting as translators, helping Pākehā visitors to their community understand the rights and wrongs within the community to avoid cultural collision. For instance, breaking tapu, touching a tohanga on the head, or anything like that. It helped these Pākehā Māori helped Māori communities with their engagement and an increasing level of engagement with the Pākehā world. There are other impacts, and I encourage you to look at my annotations in the booklet. Another one was loss of life. Now, you can say the Māori population was severely impacted through this contact period through warfare. Like literally thousands were killed during the Muscat Wars, but also through disease. Okay, all Pākehā, groups of Pākehā who had sustained contact with Māori transmitted these diseases to the Māori communities, and because Māori had never had these diseases before, their immunity found it very difficult to cope. So there were measles outbreaks, the flu, the common cold, even knocked Māori around, but it resulted in a huge number of deaths. Infant mortality, that's a number of children who didn't make it to the age of 5, or even 10 for that matter, skyrocketed because they couldn't cope with these new diseases, and it took time to build up that immunity. So, the loss of life, the population halved, I think some estimates have it, between 1769 and 1840. And that was, depending on who you read, your population of in excess of 100,000, of close to 200,000 by 1840 was well below that. And that was an impact of contact with these groups. Another sort of generic or overall impact was travel. Māori were able to travel through connections made with traders, whalers, and missionaries outside of New Zealand to discover the wider world and the Pākehā world, and they learned a lot. Australia was one place where a lot of Māori travelled to very early on, and they learned about how Pākehā society functioned, and they brought those learnings back to their own communities. So there's some information on impact. Hopefully that's been helpful. Just remember, this is for question 1.2. The previous video was all about identifying those different groups who had contact and with Māori before 1840, and this video is about the impact of those contacts had on Māori. Thank you.